Roofman is the true story of a man who robbed dozens upon dozens of McDonald's by cutting a hole in the roof, descending down, and herding the employees into the freezer. Once he was arrested, he escaped from prison and started living in a Toys R Us. And that's just the beginning. That's just the first act. I had never heard of this guy, but this sounded bizarre. I was also interested because it's directed by Derek Cianfrance, and he doesn't usually make movies that have the tone that a story like this would seem to have. He's made things like The Place Beyond the Pines, which has a lot of tragedy to it, or Blue Valentine, which is just depressing. And this was an interesting watch because it is kind of a unique balance between the absurdity of the things that this man is doing, and as far as I could tell from looking it up after the fact, most of the major plot points here are accurate, but also taking itself pretty seriously and diving into these characters' lives emotionally. Channing Tatum is really good as the main character. They talk about criminals needing to be cold and calculating, and he only has the calculating side, and he clearly is. He's willing to do a lot of these things, but he is also kind of a goofball when he's hanging out with his kids. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. He's initially pushed to doing this because he's trying to provide for his daughter, and that doesn't excuse the bad things that he does, but you see that he isn't just some evil criminal mastermind. He's in many ways a good person who was pushed to making some bad decisions, and that is really why Derek Cianfrance was the good choice for a story like this, because that's what all of his movies have kind of been about: layered characters, people who aren't just bad or angelic one way or the other, people who have these complexities to them and maybe get pushed into doing things they otherwise may not have done. And that's why you have this good balance of things like him living in a Toys R Us and surviving off of peanut M&Ms and showering in the bathroom sink and the absurdities of it all, with this relationship that he forms with Kirsten Dunst and her kids, and like the actual genuine sweetness of that you wish wouldn't end in tragedy, that you wish was happening under more normal circumstances, but you also know it's completely doomed. And there's also like this creepiness factor underneath it all, as he's lying to her about who he is, about the fact that he's a fugitive and that he saw her for the first time spying in a Toys R Us. The balance is pulled off very well, where it's like, yeah, this guy cannot be allowed to keep doing this. This is not good. But also, you see the genuine person he is underneath all of that. Channing Tatum is very charming. And considering you're watching a movie version of the events, like, part of you is kind of like, if he just got to get away with it, I don't know that I would be all that mad. Like, who did he rob? McDonald's? I think they're doing fine. It's the inserting yourself into somebody's life under false pretenses part that's the bigger problem, honestly. But Kirsten Dunst is also great. She has some emotional scenes near the end as more of this information comes to light, and watching her fall in love with somebody for the first time after her marriage, dealing with the drama with her kids, and going through all of this, she was really good. Peter Dinklage was also good as kind of like the dickhead store manager of the Toys R Us. And there's more great supporting cast too. Lakeith Stanfield, Juno Temple, Ben Mendelsohn, small roles, but very good. They also did a good job recreating the look of a Toys R Us from that time period. It made me nostalgic, made me kind of want to live there. There's nothing crazy that's wrong with the movie. There's just some little things that kind of hold it back. Like there's some small side plots that don't really feel like they add much, some side characters who don't feel like they add much. One in particular who's an employee at the store who's very timid and won't speak up for himself, and it really feels like it's building to some kind of arc for him, and then it just never does. There are some lines he has at the movie that I think were supposed to be like a completion of that arc, but I was expecting him to do something, contribute, and that never happens. You either needed to just cut that out entirely or make that guy like a real character, so anything you were gonna do with him would actually be earned. He's in it just the right amount to not be a waste of time, because he's barely in it, but to be kind of like a standout as, why was that in there? And it does feel a little long. The beginning of the movie is where a lot of the craziest stuff happens. The robberies and the prison break and the Toys R Us setup. And then after that, it's all about him developing these relationships and deciding where he wants to go with his life. Will he be able to continue being on the run? When is the secret gonna come out? That drags on for a bit longer than it felt like it needed to, because we do know inevitably where it's gonna end. And even though I respect the balance of tones, I feel like personally it would have stood out to me more if it leaned heavily in one direction or the other. Like if it was really funny. The comedy was fine. I had some good laughs, but not many. It was very kind of tame and simple comedy, very serviceable, but not laugh out loud for most of it. And then on the serious side of things, it definitely grapples with this man's life and his relationships with all of these other people, and it does hold him accountable as somebody who has done bad things and should not just be allowed to get away with it, but I don't feel like it grapples with that quite enough. And it's a true story, so the characters' actions and reactions are whatever they were in real life, but I feel like it just pushes it a little far in trying to make him seem like the goofy fun guy, when it's like, alright, let's make sure we acknowledge that he slept with this woman by telling her that he is a secret government agent. That's a little bit fucked. And when I'm just thinking about rewatchability, if I want to rewatch a biopic, am I going to be in the mood for a really uplifting one or a really tragic one about like a really bad guy? And this one being kind of in the middle, I don't know that it's one I would rush to rewatch that much. But it is solid. I had a good time. The audience seemed to love it. There was actually a few people who clapped at the end. It's an interesting story, great performances, tackling a tone that would have been hard to pull off, and I think they do pull it off pretty well, even though it wasn't perfect for me. It comes out later this week, so I do recommend seeing it when it does. If you have seen it, leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to talk about it with you down there, whether you agree or disagree with anything that I said. Have you ever robbed a McDonald's? How easy was it? How'd it go? If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more from me. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you next time.